Press and the Down Beach Current were notified of this meeting. A copy of the same was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Would you take a second, please, and turn off all electronic equipment, including cell phones? We'll stand for the flag salute. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Rosie, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Becker?
Here.
Ms. Wabi?
Here.
Mr. Blumberg?
Here.
First item of business, we have visitors from the MEF, the Margate Education Foundation. Would you please come to the microphone and give us an update on your...
Hi, thank you for having us today. As you said, we're from the Margate Education Foundation, and just with a quick update on our school fundraiser, it's the first year that we're going to do this Dune Dash, and it's really coming together. The name was, we kept trying to come up with a name, but do not associate it with the Dune Project. This is the Dune Dash beach obstacle course. We had great help putting the map together, maybe that you could get a chance to look at, and just I sent everybody the obstacles. We went with safety and help with some of the police and firemen and public works to discuss obstacles that would be affordable and safe. So the first year should be really kind of low-key, but a lot of fun.
Just here to give you an update and see if you have any questions about the Dune Dash and, you know,
Anybody have
everyone
any
know what it is,
questions?
September 7th.
Why don't you let everybody know when it is? Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to say when
September
it is,
7th.
what time it starts, and what your expectations are.
Starts September 7th, on September 7th, 9 a.m., 8 a.m. registration. We have no expectations as of right now. We don't know if we're going to get, 50 people or 200 people, but we're going to do it in a safe manner. We're going to do it in waves, where 20 people at a time, so we're not all doing it at once. So in every 5 minutes, another 20-person group will go out. And this is a fun event, not worried about times. It's more of a challenge. You just want to finish it. So there's going to be no first, second, or third. So we're worried about, being able to finish the challenge and doing it in a safe manner in waves, as I said, and that's our expectations as of right now. What do you think?
And John, is it open to kids, parents, men, women, all ages?
That's a good question.
Okay.
We have a competitive division, which is going to be the first group, first waves, where it would be individual competitors who, want to give their best effort. Then we're going to have a team, where groups of anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. And then we're going to have a family. So families are running together. In that manner, it's going to be open to all public.
We're really keeping it advertising only through the school this year and family and friends of school members. So yes, like my brothers will be there with their families, but they're, so we're not like going and putting it in and advertising. We need to get our feet wet before we go.
Okay.
We figured go a little small this year.
Last time you were here, you asked for the city's cooperation and help. Are you guys okay? Do you need anything? Let us know, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
So, go ahead.
Start and finish will be at the Bloom Pavilion there. So registration, we set it up, so registration will be in the Bloom Pavilion, and we'll start right on that beach there, Huntington.
And last thing, everyone's been great so far, Mayor. Public Works, Fire Department, Police Department, and the Margate Rec. We've had full cooperation. We had plenty of meetings already and emails and everything, contacts, and everyone's gotten back to us with a great response and all the help we need.
I have one more question. Are you interested or looking for like a little blurb that we could put on our website, on the city website?
Absolutely.
Would that help?
Yes, that'd be
Okay.
great. Because the thing is, it's September 7th, so we have 1 week once we're back at school, so we're trying to get the word out to all of our residents.
So
We do have the current reporter
And we
here
have the
today.
current.
If you ask her nicely, she would help. I
I'll
bet.
ask her next.
and maybe put together a little paragraph and, get it to me or Brenda or Mike, and we'll see if we can't get somebody to put it up on the website for us.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay? Rich had a question about insurance.
We're through Margate Rec, That's why we pair with Margate Rec, and our forms have a waiver on the back for every person.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Should I make an announcement that the Dean's is on the agenda at 5 o'clock?
Well, I think after reports, if they want to talk about it,
We can do that. Okay.
talk.
We can do. Is that all right with you?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Let's start with department head reports. Frank, why don't you start this week?
This week, we started reading water meters. We will go into next week reading them, and I'm sure by the end of next week, we'll have the whole town read. We've been doing a lot of utility work. We've had a lot of water and sewers to install with all the new construction. We moved a fire hydrant this week. We're also getting the flower beds and the grass around the schools ready for when they open. We've been weeding and cutting and doing some maintenance, little maintenance around the school. The one problem we do have, though, and it's been on the beach, is the people coming down with not beach shovels, but regular shovels, and they are really digging deep holes. And maybe in the near future, we could pass something where there's some type of ordinance that says that, you shouldn't dig deeper than your knees or something like that. So...
Frank, can you tell everybody, like the public, they may not understand why the big holes are dangerous?
People do come down the beach and they think they're having fun digging deep holes, but what happens is when we go to clean the beach in the morning, our tractors, if somebody don't see the hole, they fall into it. And it can cause injury and it can damage our equipment. Those tractors cost way over $100,000 a piece. So, we try to go down there early and fill them in with a payloader, which takes extra time, but we really would like to see the people not dig the holes so deep. That's all I have.
Thank you. Chief, I didn't mean to bypass you, but I knew you were coming up right away, so it's yours.
Department head, or just the report, right? Not the...
Not the other two. Let's do it all now.
Do it all now?
Do it now.
Okay. Everything's going well at the fire department. We've been very busy. Nothing outstanding to report. But I would like to report today, it's actually a privilege for me to be a part of a team that worked diligently to put together and today implement a drug and alcohol testing policy for the Margate City Fire Department. I personally want to thank Mayor Becker, the Director of Public Safety, B.A. Deeney, Clerk Hiltner, Scott Abbott, our solicitor, and Police Chief Dave Wolfson for their input and their advice on this project. I also would like to thank publicly our local FMBA officers. For those who don't know, the FMBA is the Firemen's Mutual Benevolent Association. It's a New Jersey State Firemen's Union. President Tom Scher is here today. And also State Delegate Ed Waltman was also a helper on this. And the membership, the entire membership of the Margate City Fire Department. I want to thank them also. And I just wanted to say that in my position as chief of the fire department, it's been a real pleasure to work on a difficult project when both parties are willing to work together. And that's exactly what the City of Margate officials and the FMBA Local 41 officers from the Margate firefighters have done. They have worked together on this project. The policy itself is roughly a 20-page comprehensive document requiring random drug testing for all uniformed firefighters in the City of Margate. The policy is in effect as of the distribution and education of the policy to all city firefighters. Although these types of policies are not foolproof, they are serious deterrents against substance abuse. The Margate Fire Department has been a member of the New Jersey State FMBA again for as long as I can remember, and that's pretty long because I'm in my 37th year here. And our local has desired to implement a policy like this for some time now, and I agree with them and I applaud them. And I wanted to just share with everyone today that I received a phone call today from a New Jersey State FMBA official. His name is James Keefe. He's a firefighter in the city of New Brunswick, but he's also an official for the state union. And he proceeded to tell me that the city of Margate and our local 41 were trendsetters as of today. He said, you guys are trendsetters in the state of New Jersey. He came to numerous drug policy meetings with us and was thoroughly impressed by the cooperation of our mayor and our local union. And he proceeded to tell me that he is reporting this at the next state meeting. And I'm very proud of that. And I want to thank everybody who was involved.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for your hard work, for all those who worked hard, especially to the men of the fire department. I'd like to publicly acknowledge how proud I am of you, how much I really thank you for all the hard work that you've done. And, you know, as the Chief said, we're one of the very few in the whole state that has this policy. So we are trendsetters, and thank you. Please tell all the men that I'm very, very, very thankful.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Lisa?
I have nothing to report today.
Chief Wolfson?
I'm going to dovetail on Lisa. I have nothing to report today.
Mr. Deeney?
Our engineer has had a dental emergency today and could not be here. I do have a written report that he has, and I will pass that out to the commissioners in between meetings here. There's nothing significant on that report in the sense that we're in the summertime. We're between active projects at this time, but we can give you an update, and he has done so in writing. With respect to the fire policy, I just want to dovetail Tony by saying that indeed we are, I think, the third one in the state to be able to have this active policy. And while the policy is designed to be a deterrent, it's a deterrent for two main reasons. One, public safety, and secondly, the health of the individual firefighters. And I would encourage, when this policy is passed and it's placed on our website, which we intend to do, for everyone to read it and see how thorough it is. The law requires that municipalities cannot do this unilaterally. It has to be done in conjunction with the respective unions. The law also does not allow us to indiscriminately test for drugs on a random basis for other than public safety employees or those that possess the CDL license, which is licensed to drive large vehicles. So it's not something that can be imposed, and you may ask, well, when are we going to do it throughout the entire organization? The law does not allow us to do that, other than for public safety officials. While it allows us to do it for public safety officers, the terms and conditions under which we do it must be negotiated. And the FMBA on a state level is way out in front because they recognize the dangers of drugs in our society today, much different than they may have been 10 or 20 years ago. And it's essentially a health issue, largely because of prescription drug abuse. And prescription drug abuse is rampant in our society because of the availability of prescription drugs. And it's a serious matter, and one in which involves families in every community. And we're up front, and this will go a long way to frankly saving local families, as well as making sure the public at large is safe by having people not affected or under the influence So it's one of the top things I feel like I can say that I've been involved in my entire career. So I thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Mr. Abbott?
Just following up on that, Mayor, we had discussed today when we realized that I think we're the only community in South Jersey to adopt this. Is that correct, Tony, or is anybody else considering it? And perhaps, well, go ahead. I have a question and then a suggestion.
To answer your question, this policy is off of a model policy that first went into effect in New Brunswick and that the state has embraced for all FMBA locals. So yes, I know other locals are looking into it in South Jersey.
And so what City Administrator Deeney had suggested, and I agree, we've been involved in this from day one, that perhaps there should be a resolution from the governing body endorsing this concept, because I believe other communities are going to look at us and call us up and say, can we see your fireman's drug policy? And I think it would be a good thing, and you agree with this, right, Rich, that as a governing body, we should probably have a resolution. It doesn't have to be real long and complicated. And Rosie, maybe we could even do it at our next meeting following
it's
tonight.
such a good idea that's already on the agenda.
It is, okay. Well, that was so good of mine, because it wasn't on my agenda, so, so that's what we're going to do. And it really is again, our local fireman fully cooperated, and the state representative was a very helpful guy who came down, I think, several times to meet us, and it's something we should be very proud of. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Scott. Rosie, do you have anything?
No, we're good. All right.
Roger?
Nothing, Mayor.
Jim?
Nothing, Mayor.
Mark?
Yeah, I do. I have one thing, and for those of you that have been following the dunes and the proposed dune project that we've been talking about and reading about in the paper, I ask you all to take a walk on the Ventnor Boardwalk. And it amazed me the other day, because I ride my bike to work almost every day. It amazed me the other day to see that the ocean has, and I think their replenishment was like 6 or 7 months ago, and I didn't have a ruler or a yardstick, but the ocean has more or less reclaimed half, I would guess, half of the sand that they pumped. They had about, and it was high tide when I was on the bike the other morning, they had about 60, maybe 65 feet of beach between the high tide line and the dunes. So I just think you might want to all take a look at that and see how fast. And I don't know when their next scheduled replenishment is supposed to take place, but they're going to need it sooner than later. And I can tell you that for a fact. And so I just thought that maybe you ought to want to take a look at that. That's all I had.
Brenda?
On a much lighter note, the children's, Our Children Making a Change charity had a pet parade scheduled last week on Saturday. It rained. It was rescheduled to Sunday. It rained. So it's been rescheduled for this Saturday, August 9th. The registration is at 9 o'clock. The parade's at 9:30. It's $5 per dog, and should be a lot of fun. So come out and support that if you can. As Business Administrator Rich Genie mentioned, Ed Wahlberg had a dental emergency. If there's anyone here that I might have spoken with over the last couple of weeks regarding Rumson Avenue, Ed Wahlberg is looking into that for us. So we'll have a report on that later down the road. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. I have nothing other than a comment about public comment. We are going to proceed with this meeting with our regular public comment session, which is that you can talk about anything you want to talk about. We had planned to go ahead and open up the discussion about the legal opinions on the dunes, which is actually on a 5 o'clock meeting. But now that Mr. Blumberg has brought the subject up, we will accept comment on that. at some point, I guess we'll have to end this meeting, go into the other meeting just as a formality. So the floor is yours, public comment on anything that's been discussed here today. You have 3 minutes.
I just have a question. I think everybody else was under the impression that we were going to be able to hear each of your opinions as our city leaders on the letters and what we should do, and then open it up to public comment so that we could then comment on your expertise. You had an executive session meeting, and the only thing that's been put out to the public has been in the newspaper. And I think that we have a right as a public in this work meeting, because you can't discuss it anywhere else, for each of you to express your thoughts about it, and then hear public opinion, and then hopefully make a decision. Thank you. And I hope that we also get two times to have public participation, because the rule is you can do 3 minutes at the work meeting of anything that's talked about, which Dunes was, and then 3 minutes at the regular meeting. It seems like you're trying to cut us down to 3 minutes.
Actually, you're going to get another time, because if you remember, this meeting was set up to accept your comments, the public's comments on the legal opinions. There is also another meeting scheduled for, I believe, the 23rd on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, which will be for our annual meeting that we have normally every year, once a year, for those people who are inconvenienced by a weekly meeting, and for the summer residents, you'll have your opinion to be stated at that point, and then after accepting all your public comments, I will make my position well known. Ms. Sewell?
Mayor, your track record for public meetings is rather shameful. You had 2 summer residents show up. I think it's Exhibit A in just how inept, incompetent, insufficient, inefficient your leadership as mayor has been. You can't be an absentee mayor, mentally and physically, and represent the people. Keep in mind, Mayor, this is a multi-million-dollar operation. And if you're disengaged, it works to the detriment of all the taxpayers of this city. But switching back to Commissioner Blumberg's and his observation in Ventnor, I concur 100% with his sentiments. As the solicitor clearly remembers when he was solicitor in that other town in Ventnor, he was gung-ho for a master jetty to be erected at Fredericksburg. I wish he would revive some of those sentiments. And while we're on the solicitor, a matter that was brought up last time, Title 54 of the New Jersey statutes annotated, the solicitor, I don't want to put words in his mouth, that's very unsanitary, but the solicitor left us with the distinct impression that 18% was the law. I humbly beg to differ with our dear solicitor. It can be anything you want, Mayor. And last time, you were sympathizing with these 7,000 to 10,000 casino workers who are going to lose their job, ergo lose their cars, ergo lose their homes. And I said that the 18% was a usurious rate, and I implored you to lower that rate from 1.5% per month to 1.25% per month. And our dear city clerk wrangled with the percentages, but I was merely calling for a 15% rather than an 18% interest charge. And Mayor, I hope you have enough backbone and intestinal fortitude to introduce a resolution at this very work session to reduce that rate from 18 to 15%. Mayor, you know what kind of reduction that would be in percentages? Any idea?
No, John, I don't.
It doesn't surprise me, Mayor, one iota, but it would be a reduction of 16 2/3% from the existing 18%.
15 seconds, John.
15 seconds? Well, let me implore, if you are too vacillating to introduce such a resolution, I call upon Commissioner Talby and/or Commissioner Blumberg not to kick the property owner in while he's on the ground with an 18% usurious rate. Reduce it to 15%, Mayor. Introduce that resolution today, now.
Thank you, John.
No, you're going to introduce it, Mayor, yes or no?
John, please sit down.
Let's go on the record, Mayor. Will you reduce that usurious rate from 18% to 15%?
John, your time is up.
The answer to the question, Mayor, I'll be glad to sit down. Yes or no?
Chief, go get him, Chief.
I'm entitled to an answer, Mayor. Yes or no?
John, this is public comment. We've been through this many times before.
John, how about if we get back to you on
Please
that?
sit down.
Today, Maury, today.
Thank you, sir.
This is my first time in this building here, so...
Would you state your name and address, please?
Oh, my name is Arthur Babian. I've lived on Pacific...
Talk to the microphone, please.
My name is Arthur Babian. I've been a resident of the city since 1974. I normally don't come to these meetings, and I came here for another purpose, but I noticed something which seems wrong to me. I believe the American flag is supposed to be on the right of its own when you face it. If I'm wrong, please excuse me, I'm old and I may have forgotten, but I believe the American flag is supposed to be on its own right, not on the right as you observe it. So if you could investigate that, because I think it's a little bit of a disgrace to see the American flag on the wrong side.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babian.
Sharon Simon, 424 North Bellow Avenue. Mayor, this is a regular work meeting. The purpose of this meeting wasn't a special meeting called for the dunes. You could have called one at 7 o'clock. It's a work meeting. You discuss agenda items. Dunes is on the agenda items. And anybody who wants to come up here can have 3 minutes to discuss the dunes. Now, your little speech about this was this, and we don't do this, and we don't do this, might get away with when it's just me and a handful of the Concerned Citizens Group. But you've got people in here, they're all saying the same thing. You said that you were going to discuss the opinion letters at the next meeting.
No one ever said that.
Yes, you did. And anyway, whether you did or not, this is probably the most important issue facing this commission. And you discuss everything else in work session. You're going to tell us that you're not going to discuss it, you're going to listen to what we say, and then you're going to make up your mind? We have a right, you are elected officials, to know what your position is. And I think it's a disgrace that you're not going to say it. You say it in the paper where no one can question it. All these people out here want to know your opinions and hear a discussion by the three of you on those legal opinions. You spent $10,000 of our money. Discuss them.
Anyone else?
Carol Lipson, 112 South Pembroke, and I guess I really came just sort of, I have a little different perspective, but I did come to find out what we are doing to keep the dunes from being built. So I was hoping when I came to the meeting today, I would hear, this is what's happened, this is what we've done so far, and this is what we plan to do in the future, unless you don't have a plan. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Beth Turchi, 111 South Sumner. Following up on Carol's comments, I understand that Sharon's frustrated and she wants to know your opinions, but the press has covered it pretty wildly, and I think we're pretty sure what you guys feel of the three opinions that you got. So my question is this. There was an overwhelming referendum in November that this community does not want the dunes built. So if, in fact, it is the opinion of this commission that going forward to fight the state on this is not cost-effective or not a wise decision, and again, following Carol Lipson's thinking, what is the next step? What do we do next? And in that vein, I'd like to know this. If we're not going to sign the contract, as Mayor Becker has vowed that he won't sign the contract, if that is the case, what is our obligation when a dune that does get built needs repair or replenishment? If we are not contractually obligated to do so, and if repair or replenishment is necessary, and the most cost-effective approach to this community, the community that doesn't want the dunes, is to bulldoze them, will this commission consider that as an action going forward? Secondly, I know that there is some ancient 1980s law in Ventnor that was passed that inhibits the size of any structure there in front of their boardwalk. Why aren't we looking at doing something similar in the city of Margate? Let's pass a law that says if we get this dune, that it can't be higher than a certain, than our bulkhead, and even the new bulkheads, which I think are 8 or 10 feet. In summary, what we need to do is take a look at what we're going to do next. If the lawyers say we won't win against the state, if this commission refuses to move forward with that suit, what is this commission, in its obligation to a community that has already spoken, going to do going forward to stop these dunes? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Steve Cinderbrand is my name. I live at 111 North Mansfield Avenue. I was at one point a member of the Margate City Zoning Board and chairman of that board. I also practiced land use law for a number of years. My name is Steve Cinderbrand. I live at 111 North Mansfield. At one time, I was a member of the Margate City Zoning Board. I was chairman of that board for a number of years, for which I'm very grateful for having had the opportunity. I was a land use lawyer for a number of years, no longer in practice. I don't think the issue is whether I'm for or against the dune. I think the issue is clearly that 65% of the people who voted in the referendum said, we don't want it. You are our elected officials. The three of you are responsible to uphold the will of the people, as was clearly expressed. So what will happen? What will happen? If we do nothing, we know exactly what will happen. The Army Corps is going to get here sometime in the fall of 15 or whenever they feel like it, and they're going to go to work, and we're going to end up with whatever it is that they tell us. We're like a toothless tiger. We can sit there and say we're not going to sign agreements. We can sit there and say we're not going to participate. They don't care. There's been no negotiation. There's just been direction. There's been letters from the DEP. I've read the letters. I've read the attorney's opinions. To me, it's not whether we win or lose the battle that is critical. It's that you, as our elected officials, stand up and fight for the will of the people. Not just say we're not going to participate, but fight. Fight. We know what's going to happen if we do nothing. If we fight, and by that I mean implement a lawsuit in federal court seeking an injunction to stop this project, now we've got their attention. Now we have a position. Now the tiger has teeth. Then we'll see where it goes. We may win, we may lose. The city has spent a lot more money on a lot less over the course of my 60 years living here, and I, for one, think that this is a fight about the future of our city. If we go down, so be it. But I, for one, as a voting member of this town's population, am not willing to just let the state walk over us while we sit there and tell them we're not going to take it, but we don't do anything about it. So I implore you as our elected representatives not only to express your interest in fighting, but to get up and fight. And by that I mean, let's get prepared and let's get a lawsuit filed, because that's the only language that the other side will understand. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Dan Gottlieb, 407 North Nassau Avenue. Carol and Beth and Steve are very eloquent and very tough acts to follow. And just back to the issue about you wanting to hear us. The contention that after an election, that it's necessary for the public to come out to commission meetings to tell you how we feel seems a little backwards to me. There are very few people at our commission meetings. Because for the most part, when they elected you, they trusted you to do the right thing. And that's one reason why they elected you. The other reason is that not everyone can make it home from work at for a 4 o'clock meeting or a 5 o'clock meeting. Mayor Becker, the Current had you quoted in the paper about 2 weeks ago that you're surprised that more people aren't showing up to give you feedback on this issue. You, Mayor Becker, were undecided about the beach project 1 year ago, and you asked people to cast their vote for or against the project. You said you would take the temperature of the voters to help you formulate your opinion, and the voters gave you their answer, 65% no on the project. So I echo Sharon Simon's remarks when she says, I think the people in this room and the people in this town feel it's very important to defend and to stand up and to fight the way Steve Cinderbrand so eloquently described, and to begin an action, to go up to Trenton and to hear the state tell us what we can do and what we can't do. That's great, but we have to vigorously and actively defend. And I don't think trying to get people here at commission meetings after a 65% vote is appropriate. I think it's great to get people out here, and I'm pleased with the turnout today for people on both sides of this issue. But I do think it's very important for the three of you to discuss your thoughts as it relates to those legal opinions and what you want to do. I think all three of you should tell us, Brenda, do you want to fight this? Do you want to spend taxpayer dollars and defend the vote? Do you want to fight this? Is this important to you? If it's important to the voters, is it important to you? Mike, same thing, and Maury, same thing. I think all three of you, if you went into executive session after the last meeting to discuss this, you owe it to us, instead of running out the clock or taking the goal line and pushing it further back, it's really, really important for us to know how you feel. Thank you.
Stephen Altman, 9003 Amherst Avenue, Margate. There has only been one real strategy that I have heard in listening to this discussion about the dunes, and that is to take the state to court. But there are other alternatives, and no one has suggested them, so I'm going to take the opportunity. Publicity. Full-page ads in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Star-Ledger. Groups that are very concerned about not having the dunes could spend their efforts doing things like that. Publicity, contacting those publications and television stations that would be interested, and getting them to do stories on the fact that, is it 65%? Is that a number of Margate voters that voted against it? We have a governor who is very interested in perhaps a presidential run. The publicity that we could get would be very important to his run. His state saying, we're going to run roughshod over 65% of a population of a community. I think that the entire country would be interested in taking a look at the governor if that's what he chooses to do. So the groups that have come up here and argued for your opinion ought to be considering using their efforts to do things like that, as well as perhaps the commissioners joining in some effort like that to put forth Margate's point of view to a larger audience than just ourselves. Thank you.
Steve Warner, 103 North Sumner Avenue. I know when we voted whether we wanted the dunes or not, I don't recall in that the thing that we voted for that it said anything about spending taxpayer money to fight the state if we lose. Now, am I right about that or am I wrong? Maureen, was there anything in that said spend taxpayer money to fight the state? Yes or no?
Oh, I
don't recall, Steve. You don't recall? Well, I recall. It never said anything about money. Now, as I said to Mr. Gottlieb, I don't know, 6 months ago, after the vote, or during the vote, I said, you know, whatever happens, I don't care. The only thing I care about is spending taxpayer money fruitlessly. You know, I'm interested in saving the taxpayer money, not wasting money. If all these people here that don't want the dunes, I mean, why don't you take up the money and sue the state yourself? Maybe Mr. Cinderbrand could file pro bono, okay? It doesn't cost that much money, a couple $100. Why don't you sue the state? I don't think the taxpayers should be on the hook for this expense. Thank you.
Last week, you were up here advocating for us to spend over $2 million for 4 additional tennis courts. Do you remember that? We were going to build 4 additional tennis courts at the cost of over $2 million.
I don't see why that has anything to do with it.
You're talking about frivolously spending money?
Well, how about the $2 million you spent at the ball field? $2.5 million, okay? To build fences. You know, that you got, and a paddle tennis court that nobody uses, all right? So let's talk about spending money frivolously. And actually, people that come here, they want to use the tennis courts. I don't think that's frivolous any more than it is frivolous to repave streets. Is that frivolous? Is it? You know, why don't you file pro bono? What's the big deal? We did it when we sued the city. We didn't charge any. We didn't take any money from the city to do that. We paid it ourselves, and it wasn't that much money either. If you want to sue, it might cost you a couple $100 to file, and let somebody file the briefs. Big deal. We got a bunch of lawyers here. You know, why don't you do it?
Art Babian, 9619 Pacific Avenue. I assume I'm allowed to speak on this topic. I read the 3 letters. The problem I have is we're talking about the ocean front, which is on Absecon Island, and we're supposedly the only community which is going to supposedly actively fight the dunes. That right away, I think, puts us in a bad position. Second, from what I read, opinions on whether dredging or bulkheads or whatever help, where is the technical authority to fight what the engineers will come out with? If you're going to start any sort of action of the city against the state and or the federal government, you're going to have a lot of evidence on your side that what they're doing is incorrect and you have a better plan. Just because people see the Ventnor boardwalk, that the beach is a little bit washed out, I don't think is going to hold much weight. Now, as I mentioned, I've lived here since 1974. I can remember a lot of things that I don't like the town doing, but I still live here, and overall, I think it's been doing a good job. I also don't like to see money being wasted, and when you consider the probability of us succeeding, I think that puts down, bring it up, or at least limit the cost of the litigation. You can't just open an open-ended fight and not know where you're going to end up with. Like I said, you're going to be fighting both the county, I assume, since Atlantic City, Ventnor, and Longport aren't going to support you. You're going to be fighting the state government, and then you're going to be fighting the federal agencies. And to me, that seems an awful lot of money to just spend taxpayer money on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Mulligan, 8 South Mansfield. The issue of fighting the dunes has pretty much been established by the people of Margate. We don't want them. The majority of the people don't want them. As far as I'm concerned, that issue is closed. The issue is now, what do we do about it with the fighting the state? My understanding is it's now a cost issue. This past gentleman, several others have said we're wasting money. Before I continue, the cost of putting sidewalks or pathways over these dunes, who fronts that? Uncle Sam? Have they told us who's going to pay for those walkways over the dunes?
This has been funded by Congress, Paul, years ago. They'll pay for everything.
They pay for everything?
They'll pay for...
They'll pay for the drainage of the street water out past so it doesn't... Because they're already pulling the mosquito control trucks in at Nassau Avenue because the water pool's there.
I understand.
So they're going to pay for all of that?
The DEP called me a couple days ago, said they would like to come down to Margate with the Corps to discuss drainage. I told them, when would you like to come? And they told me they would get back to me within the week. So the drainage issue is still being resolved. They said that the Corps has some solutions to the drainage issue. When that meeting happens, I will be happy to report back the results of that meeting.
All right, and now have they said in writing that they're going to pay for all of these walkways over the dunes?
It is my understanding that they will do that. That is correct.
Your understanding, is that
correct.
in writing from these clowns?
It is. Is it? Scott?
Is it?
It is.
Is it in writing, Scott?
My understanding is they're paying 100% of all costs for this shore protection.
Yes,
everything.
I understand.
Walkways, drainage,
did they pay for
everything.
Ventnor's walkways over?
No, at that time, 10 years ago, Ventnor had to pay 8.75% of the total cost. So Ventnor spent about $400,000 or $500,000. comes to mind.
500,000.
10 to 12 years ago.
So double that.
But this one, because of
price.
Hurricane Sandy,
So that's still an iffy.
zero.
That's still an iffy situation.
Because, as Scott says, because of the hurricane, it was determined by the federal government and the state that they would pay everything in entirety. There is no Margate contribution.
Everything in the, say that again. I didn't quite understand it.
Because as a result of Sandy, the Hurricane Sandy, the state and the federal government have agreed to pay in total for everything involved.
Okay, now that's a natural disaster, Hurricane Sandy. We get most of our damage here from nor'easters, which we predominantly get 2, maybe 3 a year. Those dunes won't last up to those nor'easters. Not a national disaster now, qualifying for federal money. So I'm looking at how much it will cost, because once the dunes go, those walkways go. So actually taking 200 grand, or whatever the hell it is, to fight this whole decision from the state is really short money. When you look at possibly who's going to be paying for these walkways, and that's just one part of it.
Paul, but the bottom line is this. I have sat with the commissioner of DEP. I've asked him to acknowledge that Margate will not sign the contract and Margate will have no future financial obligation, and he agreed to that. So there may be other problems, but we will have no financial commitment now or in the future at this time.
Mike, in all due respect, I think that that's disingenuous for you to say that. I truly do. And let me tell you why. I am 100% confident that there are costs and hidden costs and future costs that we are going to be responsible for. And to say that we're not going to sign a contract and that there's not going to be any cost, I think, again, is disingenuous. I think the taxpayers of Margate are going to be on the hook for years to come if we allow them to come in here and build these dunes. And I want to agree, my position is not gray here. I am on the record against this project in its current form. And I am on board 100% with what Mr. Cinderbrand said, that the easiest way here is for us to right now file an injunction to stop this project, to let them know we are not interested in them coming into our town. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to continue to try and convince both you, Mike, and Brenda that we are, this is not about our own opinions. It's not about our own personal opinions or how we feel. It's about the 65% of the people that said no. And I think that it's more than just not signing a contract. I think it's about saying, you know what, we heard you loud and clear, and we're going to fight until we get what we want. And that is no dunes here in Margate.
My final point...
Good, Paul.
Thank you, Maury. My final point is, if we decide to fight this, which is what 65% of the residents want to do, if we decide to fight this, we may not win. Possibly we'll win just by delaying it for a couple of years. If we don't fight it, we're guaranteed to lose. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol.
Speak in the microphone, please.
Hi, Carol Arman, 4 Dolphin Drive. I agree with everything that Paul just said, and as far as the costs of these dunes, I think the other thing is the trash problem. I don't know if you've walked on the boardwalk. My next door neighbor couldn't come. He walks every morning in Ventnor, and said in back of the vast blocks in back of Ventnor, between the boardwalk and the dune, that are trash heaps. Once you get to Atlantic City, most of it is clean. They have special equipment, small vehicles that can go back there and clean it up. But the cost of keeping that area between the bulkhead and the dunes clean, free of water, is going to be monumental. And the feds and the state are not going to pay for that. Margate's going to pay for it. The other factor is I walk on the beach every day. Most of the people that are against the dunes are the ones that would be protected, quote, from this horrible hurricane that is going to be approaching and tearing down their houses. They don't care. They don't care. The beach block people do not care. They don't want the dune. The other people will have no protection. So I feel that something should be done to fight for the people that don't want this and don't want government money shoved down their throats for something they don't want. I feel this is a democracy, and to have to take funds wherever they're coming from. If someone told me they would give me $10,000 now free, and I can get free tattoos all over my body, I don't want it. I don't want that. It's not going to make me look better, and these dunes are not going to help the city. They could be $100 million worth of dunes. It's not going to help anything. Why take them? Why take them? So just to take money for no good reason, it's going to ruin the character of this city. We'll be a walled city for no good reason, and it is, as some of the other people said, going to cost Margate money. We spend lots of money on lots of things in this city that may not be so needed, and people enjoy it, fine. This is not something to spend $200,000 to defend this is not a lot of money, considering the tax losses that we may have when a lot of the beachfront people say, why should I be on beachfront? Why should I be on Beach Block? I can go 3 blocks further back and get the exact same house for $800,000 less. The tax base is going to go down. It will. When you have 4 houses on a street for sale, the sale price goes down. That's simple economics. So that's another reason. But I am just against having something put up here that we don't need and the people don't want. And you're saying that 65% of the people voted against it. How about all the people that can't vote, that pay a lot of money in taxes and can't vote, and they don't want it either? And they are still residents of the city,
Carol,
even though they have no vote.
I agree with you, and that's why we're having that meeting on the 23rd, for those people to express their opinion.
And Mayor, they're going to get up and say the same thing, but we keep saying the same thing. We're getting tired of saying the same thing. Invite us 20 times a summer, and we'll say the same thing. But if you say that the dunes, that you're not going to help defend the dunes, what are we going to do? We'll stand out there. We'll stand out there when the bulldozers come. I mean, a lot of people say that they will. And we could make this a national, really a national, it'll show the hypocrisy of this. This could go viral. I mean, the way YouTube is now and the way things are, we could put this all over the country. Small town is forced to take millions of dollars of government money that they don't want. Do you know how embarrassing that would be to the governor? Do you know how embarrassing that would be? That these people don't want a dune. We could show that there was very little beachfront damage. The bay came over and ruined how many homes? Ruined them. And they're doing nothing about that, but they're putting in a wall of sand. This could be national news, and the people don't want it.
Thank you.
My name is Stephen Earlbaum, 114 South Barclay. I'm a property owner and not a voter. I've been coming to these meetings. I think this issue is being taken way too lightly. The clock is ticking, and we're sitting on our hands doing nothing. It's going to go and go. I've spoken to people in Trenton. They said they were down here. They're about to give a contract out for this work, which I don't know whether to believe that or not. Do anyone here know anything about that?
As far as I know, there's no contract yet, but it's getting close, Mr. Earlbaum. You're correct about that.
Well,
I've got a question, Mike. How can they be awarding a contract for work in our city that we haven't agreed to? We haven't seen a contract. We haven't seen plans. How can they be doing that? You're talking to these folks. I'm not. How can they be doing that?
Why don't you call and ask them that question? You did. As far as I know, there is a contract between the DEP and the Corps of Engineers, which was signed about, a month ago or 5 weeks ago, which allows them then to go out to get bids. I don't think there's a contract.
Why are we waiting to stop this?
Pardon me?
Why are we waiting to stop this? You don't know when they're going to do it. They could do it tomorrow, and then we're dead.
You're absolutely true about that.
So what are we going to do? I mean, there's such short-sightedness in this room. I've heard about other residents talk about, well, we shouldn't fight it because we're going to lose it and we're going to waste taxpayer money. Does anybody have any idea in here what the town is going to lose in taxes because property values are going to go down? They're going to plummet. And what's going to happen? Whose taxes are going to go up when some go down? Are we going to cut the budget in the city? Will we do that?
We would have to.
You have to cut it. So we're going to cut services.
It could possibly lead to that.
I just think that, now, there's no better time than now to understand where we stand and where you stand regarding this property and to try and get an injunction immediately to stop this. This is insanity. We're treating this way too mildly, and it's inappropriate and disrespectful. And I implore you to give us your opinions. We've given you our opinions. I'd like to hear what you have to say now. Did you see the newspaper? The newspaper where it says the commissioners are soliciting input on fighting the Dunes project. Right under that is the article, West Nile virus found in Atlantic County mosquito samples and crows. Do we want those on our beaches? Do we want our kids to have West Nile virus? And how are the people, how are people that are in wheelchairs, handicapped people, how are they going to get, they don't enjoy much in life. They enjoy the ocean. How are they going to get to the ocean? Can you answer that?
The DEP will have, how many? Handicap access. I don't remember the exact number, but there will be handicap access, supposedly. I think you're correct.
4. There's going to be 4 throughout the city. There'll be 4 locations.
4, so you have to drive a half a mile to get to one. That's very helpful. That's very helpful. So can we hear from you now?
You hear from me?
Can we hear from the 3 of you about how you feel about fighting this dunes?
Marty, you've already done it.
I've already done that.
Are you willing to comment or not? That's up to you.
My vote is going to be my comment. I'm here to
What?
listen. My
Okay.
vote is my comment. I'm here to listen.
Before you stammer your opinion, such as it may be, I have a delightful speech that I'm saving for the 5 o'clock. It is timed to exactly 3 minutes, so hold your applause when I read that one. But for now, I'd like to know who... I'm going to advocate certainly to fight this, but not with these 2 lawyers that you found in Princeton? Princeton? Is that the best you could find? You don't go to a solo practitioner who's already saying, I can't do it alone, it's too big a job. Who picked these people? And the questions that were sent to them, yes?
That's not very fair.
Why?
The group that is opposed to these picked that lawyer, Mr. Goldshore.
Who picked
so
the second
you're
lawyer?
attacking Dan. Isn't he attacking the lawyer that you guys handpicked? Right? So just so you understand where Mr. Goldshore, who's one of the most respected attorneys in the state, is coming from, that's where he came from. The group that's opposed to the dunes. So get your facts straight.
That's terrific. But as an attorney, as a solo practicing attorney, I know I couldn't handle a job like this, and I wouldn't be as, I won't say fraudulent because that's sort of slanderous, but I wouldn't be as disingenuous in saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to give me $5,000 and I'll write you an opinion I could have written. I could have gone to LexisNexis, researched the same precedents that they both found, and written up for you for nothing. And I wouldn't have charged the $5,000. You would have the same useless opinions. But what you need to do is get someone who can fight this, who's part of a large firm, who can take on a case of this magnitude, and find them yesterday, because it needs to be filed as soon as possible, and get the injunction. And I just can't wait for this 3-minute speech, because you're going to love it.
Talk to the mic.
112 South Pembroke Avenue. I don't have much to say, except I don't understand what the commissioners are all about. You are our elected representatives. 65% of the voting population of Margate voted that we don't want dunes. It's your obligation to fight the fight, instead of the residents coming to beg you week after week. I mean, I think you're gutless.
Jay Zomanoff, 9 North Essex. I'd just like a clear picture painted for me as to what the result of us not having the dunes is going to have on my flood insurance rates. That is a major expense to me. I'd like to know what's going to happen if we put them in, if we don't put them in. That's going to have a direct effect
on me as a taxpayer. I doubt it.
No change.
John Turchi, 111 South Sumner Avenue. What's got me mostly concerned and confused is the fact that this improvement, let's call it an improvement, to the city of Margate has been put out to bid. And you're prepared, or we're prepared as citizens of as citizens of Margate to endorse a plan that we've never seen. Has anyone on the board seen a plan of the dune project that they're putting into our city?
I believe the answer is yes, John. I think the engineer has had, plans about the dunes for months.
Why hasn't it been shared with us? Aren't we entitled to see the plan?
Again, my understanding is that the plan that Mike is talking about is preliminary and certainly not complete.
Well, the fact of the matter is if you're going to go to a contract, you don't bid a preliminary plan. You can give a budget on a preliminary plan, but you can't get into an actual contract demanding performance of a contractor. All right? Secondly, they're talking about this boardwalk or whatever they plan to do across the dunes. It's a situation where we have 4 accesses for handicapped people. How do you determine who's handicapped? I'm 72 years old. I don't know what I'm going to look like in 10 years if I'm still around. Am I going to be able to walk over that boardwalk that they're putting over the dune? Or am I going to have to walk down to Iroquois Avenue, where Frank Binswanger lives, who's against the dune also, and walk across?
He won't let you on his route.
No, but you understand what I'm trying to say? This is a lot of baloney. The fact of the matter is, public access is extremely important to the citizens of this city, and it should be a God-given right that we have the access to this beach. All right? Thirdly, we have a situation with water drainage. Now, our street floods all the time. Do they come and they dig it out and they make a big hole there? Absolutely they do. But the fact of the matter is, the hole is never adequate to drain the entire street. Now, if you can imagine a dune being there blocking the water, it's got nowhere to go. It's going to lay there, and the street is going to be wet. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, John.
All right, but I would love to see the plan if it's available.
Mayor, just for clarification, there was, months ago, we asked for the plans because it was an open request filed, and the state and/or Corps said they were a working product and they didn't release them, couldn't release them. They did release something today.
Oh,
that was
really?
dropped off through the engineer to us.
Will
to
we
my
be
office.
able to see it?
It's now a public document, yes.
All right, fine. All right, thank you.
Can we get that put on the website?
It's a big plan. Can a plan be put on the website?
Can we physically? Fred's not here.
I don't know if a big
Ask Fred.
What I have to do is, it's a large set, I have to get copies made. It was just dropped off today.
Okay.
Mike, Commissioners, Frank Binswanger, I'm at 112 South Iroquois, and I've been here all my life, and it's 86 years. And what bothers me, what I appreciate more than anything is the comments that have been made, passionate comments from the heart of people who live in this town. 6,500 people, 65% of the residents of Margate say we don't want the dunes. And what bothers me more than anything is that there's no transparency. The idea that there's a plan all of a sudden this morning that we can see what's planned is, what the plan is. Mike, there's no copies of the correspondence that you've had with the state, with DEP, with the whole group. I know Scott's supposed to be involved, but where's the transparency? Why don't you tell these people? I'm not talking to you, Mike, just Mike, because I love you. But there are a lot of people in this room that would like to have answers, and God damn it, they're allowed. And they're entitled.
My name is Joyce Cinderbrand-Valensky. I live on the beach block of Nassau Avenue. Thank you for paving our street, which was all potholes up until very recently, and we do appreciate that. However, having lived here since I was married in 1952, within 3 blocks, Osborne, Pembroke, and now Nassau, right off Ventnor Avenue, then Beach Block. We have jetties, for instance, on Pembroke Avenue, or a groin, as you may call them, that are under the sand now. They were waist high when my kids were growing up. They very effectively stopped the sand from moving off that beach. And when there was a storm, and of course there have been many, Absecon Island, I don't know when it was first formed, but a lot older than I am, and I'm pretty old. We had many, many storms. The '62 storm is particularly memorable, when we had to evacuate Pembroke Avenue Beach Block by boat. There were natural places on the beach, and they're under the sand now, and they're dangerous. There's little signs, don't walk, there may be objects underneath. Well, they should be brought up. They should be either new ones built there. That would be, instead of having dunes, a natural barrier to having the sand being removed from the many storms that we get. And to me, it seems so much more practical. The beach is still there after 100+ years. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? My turn. Here we go.
My name is Sherwin Seligson, and I'm right down there, right on the bulkhead in one of those townhouses. And I've been here 35 years. I've seen the hurricane of '85 and northeastern of '92, and I happened to have been in my house when the 100-year storm hit. And I was with my wife, and the ocean broke down it broke my gate on the top, the railing, and it was like a ram. It knocked the door down, and my wife said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And I said, "Think Indiana Jones, because we're here, and we've got to make the best of it." And I was glad I was there. Matter of fact, the next morning there were looters. We were in our house. We were upstairs. But I can tell you this. I have a home in California. This is nicer than Newport Beach. It's in La Jolla, California. And our beach is not number 2. It's number 1. And I'd like to say that I empathize, I understand, I can see myself sitting where you are now. And how do you make a decision that involves the Fifth Amendment? The private property is the basis of all liberty. All liberty. I didn't make it up. I learned it from a teacher in elementary school because I was when the war ended, the Second World War in 1945, and we had a project for the United Nations in 1946. And I said to the teacher, "I'm so glad we won't have wars anymore." And she said to me, "Oh, that's not true. It demands eternal vigilance to have your freedom." And all I've learned, I'll never forget that one. And I wound up where 3 department stores in the center of Philadelphia needed my building for parking for them. And it's one of the leading cases in the world today, or at least in the United States, of what happened from it. In fact, there'll be some public information later. This is 50 years ago when I was 27 years old. So it was amazing to me how it is the most awesome power of the government is eminent domain. So let me just finish up here a minute. I went to the Ventnor hearings about 10 or 15 years ago when my neighbor said, "Why don't you go down and see what's doing there for the dunes?" The Army Corps of Engineers was there. And there was a gentleman there, maybe 90 years old, that had a home on the beach. And they made these speeches, "It's going to be wonderful, it'll save your home." And they particularly said to him, because I was right there, said, "You don't want your home to go out into the ocean, you don't want this." And he said, "Oh, no, I don't want it." No, do whatever you have to do. I tell you what, I walked out. There was nothing I could do. I'm not a resident of Enter. And so, I tell you what, this is a magnificent city. I know lots of people. My own blood and flesh lives in Florida, at Miami Beach, and all of that, and Boca Raton. And they come up to visit here in the summer and say, I want to come home. So, it is magnificent. So maybe we can see a methodology here as opposed to, no, I don't like it, yes, I do like it, or you do this or you do that. How can we, in effect, look at it? Well, I noticed on 9600, we had an earthquake here 2 years ago or so, and my house was shaking, but we don't have pilings. But at 9600, the top was swaying, the whole, because they're down in the rock. And I said to myself that, well, maybe our house is safer than the 9600, but it would fall on me than 14 stories. But it didn't. And I had the bulkhead there all this time. I fixed it up now and then when it got a little older. And I'll tell you what, it was a major storm, 95-mile-an-hour winds, the ocean coming up and so forth. And you just need good bulkheads. And 9600 put a bulkhead in, I saw them build it. And that bulkhead, and we have wooden bulkheads. They have some kind of, it looks like plastic or something. Get the right bulkheads here. And it's been, look, I can remember at 3 years old, before the Second World War, my mother brought me and my father here, and I was on the boardwalk, and they said, this is $1 million pier. And there was a billboard, and on the billboard was a picture of the earth with a paint can flowing over it. And my mother said to me, you see your names in lights, because my first name is Sherwin. It's not good in the playground, but it was okay when I got older. So I've been here forever. And I can just tell you, there must be something we could do to think about it. How do you satisfy everybody? And you can see with the vote alone, somebody asked Thomas Jefferson, what do you think America's for? His answer, beyond the blink of a mortal eye. And I know what it's for, because I've got 150 years more history behind me. It's for our, by the people, for the people. When I read here that they voted for it to stay, I can't vote. I'm a part-time person here. So I'm neutral in that sense, but I'm not neutral in the sense of that why should all this be, this is a big deal. Why should this burden be on the commissioner? Why should it be on the mayor? Why should it be all them? What if we had a 1,000-year storm and the whole thing blew away? I'd feel very guilty.
Okay.
So
Mr.
how do we
Sullivan?
come to it?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the heart of it. So look what I've outlined for you. I've outlined for you, how do you find a method, if at all? And this might take more than I've got up here and more than the people you hired up here. And so I feel that speaking here today and why I came down specifically was not as a jeerer or not as a champion, but somebody that recognizes I've been through it. I watched 3 major department stores seize my property through eminent domain for their own private benefit because the Supreme Court decision in 1954 changed it from public use or something to public purpose.
Thank you, Mr.
And now you saw that happen with the abuse of eminent domain.
So we have to stop at this point.
Okay. Do we give in or do we just find some method? Thank you for the time.
Steve, the lady wants to speak. You've already been up once.
May I speak for just a moment? I just want to try to zero the conversation back in on what I think are the important points that have been raised, and I won't take much time, I promise. Are we in public comment now, or are we still in executive session?
No. We're in public comment.
So we're no longer in work session?
We're still in work session.
Okay.
This is a work meeting.
Got it.
This is
So
a public...
before I go into the...
Public comment during that work meeting.
All right, before I circle back on the dune question, I just wanted quickly to make note, Mike, you and I spoke about the condition at the end of Nassau and the beach.
We did.
And the water that's leaking into the beach from the septic, or from the...
Sump pump.
Sump pump at the priest's house. That's still happening, and it's awful. So we need to get that fixed. We need to stop dumping sewage water.
I did speak to them about that.
It's still going on as of yesterday, and it's just terrible. So I would appreciate it if we can look into that a little more closely. Just to get back to what I think is the essential point here, again, it doesn't matter whether you're for the dune or against the dune. What matters is that 65% of the people who vote in this city, who came out to vote, said, we don't want it. So we have a duly enacted referendum. It was voted upon. So we have the city over here, and then we have the governor who comes in with an executive order over here, and he says, no, the will of the people doesn't matter. This is what you're going to do. We say, no, we're not going to agree with you, but we're not going to do anything to fight you, so the governor's just going to continue to do what he does. The only way we get a seat at the table is to fight. Whether we win or lose again, or whether we just gain leverage to get our bayfront improved, whether we win or lose, or we just gain leverage to get work where we really need it, which is on the bayfront. And Scott, you've been doing land use work in this city as long as anybody, and you know where we're hurting. Whether we win or lose is not the issue. We need to gain a bargaining position. We're a laughingstock at the state level right now. The federal courts exist to resolve disputes between different levels of government. We have a dispute between the municipality and the state. The proper venue for the resolution of this dispute is not right here. Unless 2 out of the 3 of you tomorrow or right now say, yes, we're ready to go, and hire the right law firm and get moving, the proper venue for this is not going to be resolved here. It's going to be resolved by a federal court judge, a disinterested third party who can sit there and weigh and balance the merits and the detriments on each side of the argument and ultimately resolve it. That's all I have.
Well said.
Jane McGrogan, 22 North Hanover. I've noticed that many of the people that spoke tonight are second home residents, beach block owners, beachfront, and I don't have a beachfront house, and I live here all year round. I've been here for almost 50 years. And the fact is that's why these people come here, because we have these beautiful beaches. I mean, we have a beautiful thing in this city, and people flock here for that in the summer. We all know that. I mean, it's a recreation. What about, I mean, this sounds like a frivolous thing, but you have, your surfers, your paddle boarders, your kayakers, your catamarans. I mean, this is the way of life here, and this is what is attracting it. I mean, what is going to happen when this beautiful town is destroyed and the beaches are degraded, which actually they have already been degraded from Ventnor's replenishment? Because I noticed this year, walking on the boardwalk, that the Ventnor Beach was loaded, I mean just saturated, with broken shells. You could hardly see the sand because of it. Now, when you're on the Margate beaches, there are these broken shells all over our beaches now. I mean, we've never had that before. I've been living here for a long time. All these shells, I mean, what did they put down as sand there? Broken shells? Yeah, I just want to urge you to please fight for us. I mean, we worked for this very hard. 65% of the people want, this is what we want. This is our life, and this is our city, and please stand up for us. Thank you.
Evening, everyone. Adam DiBartolo, 413 North Claremont Avenue. I'm going to get up with a dissenting opinion to the masses here. I I think a few things that are being said are kind of inaccurate. We've heard a lot of different stuff about, oh, the bulkheads did fine, they did wonderful. I did say through Storm Sandy, or Sandy, whatever you want to call it. And the fact is, our bulkheads didn't stop the sand in Margate. We had front loaders putting sand back onto the beaches on every single beach block of Margate out into Atlantic Avenue in some cases. And that's the fact. They did not stop the sand. The surge went over the bulkhead.
We made a mistake there. You might not have been around. The city piled up sand in front of the bulkheads prior to the storm to protect the bulkheads. So when the storm came up, it took that sand, and all of that sand that we piled up in front of the bulkheads was washed onto the beach block streets. So
the
that
storm
was
surge,
our mistake.
That essence says that the storm surge went over the bulkhead.
If we would have not created that ramp, the bulkheads would have been able to deflect the water. This was a mistake that we made, and the experts told us that we made a mistake.
I was at the other city meetings with the City Corps of Engineers, and the experts also told you that the bulkhead would be undermined if you hadn't done that. So in that case, it would have been undermined. So, look, this is my...
I was at that meeting. I never heard that. As a matter of fact, and I don't want to be argumentative.
Let me finish. I'm not looking for an argument. You have engineering staff. You have people that are trained to do corrosion engineering studies and how beach movement goes, civil engineers, people that is their job, their livelihood. The Army Corps of Engineers do not get more money. They do not get raises if this project goes through. These engineers these are federal employees, and they get a salary. They're not going to get more money. They have no vested interest in lying or making this up. There's a million projects all across the nation that they could be working on. Their recommendation based on science is put the dunes there. When I went down into Ventnor and Atlantic City and I saw their streets and I saw the sand that had gone over the bulkhead, there was none. None. No sand was on the streets in Ventnor and in Atlantic City. And in some areas it chipped away at some of the dune, but it didn't do any significant damage. I agree with everyone that says Back Bay is also a problem here, but we have federal funding that's coming in that's basically saying, we are going to build this for you. You are going to pay practically nothing. And in the future, the agreement was in the future that we also wouldn't have to necessarily do any part of the replenishments. We would have choices every 3 years or whenever they decided to come in and do it. So, this business about, everyone being so afraid of change, I think is crazy. We are on a barrier island. We lucked out. If that storm had hit Avalon and we caught the northwest corner of that storm coming in, northeast corner of that storm coming in, we would have been much worse off. We were lucky. If that had hit Wildwood or further south like they had predicted, we would have been in terrible shape. The dunes in Ventnor are not that bad. There is handicap access. I understand what everybody talks about access, but if you go down there, there's very slow grade special spots where you can go up and get over the beaches. Maybe we would want more of them, and maybe that's something to negotiate about. But for us to sit here and pass out misinformation that was passed out before this vote and scare people, I think is a shame. It's a shame that we did this. So again, I would be the dissenting opinion, but that's my dissenting opinion. On other business, I would like to ask, is this just open for public comment on other things at this time too?
Go ahead.
Well, and that's fine. So the only other thing to say is we've already now given $10,000 to lawyers.
Correct.
Now we're hearing estimates it's going to be $200,000. And very quickly, your opinion letters here says we won't win. That's what it says. These two letters that came from the lawyers says, however, given the abundance of field research which indicates protective capacity of a beach and the dune system is directly related to the volume of sand in that system, and in light of all the anecdotal evidence that indicates engineered beaches with dunes did better, it basically says that you're not going to win, is what these two opinions and your own internal opinion.
Did you read in the letter where the one the one attorney said we can't afford not to fight? Did you read that paragraph? You didn't want to read that paragraph to
I did read
the
that
entire
paragraph.
audience?
So
And you want to ignore the
let's spend
65%
$200,000 and raise everyone's taxes a little more for a fight that we can't win.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hi, my name is Mark Rubin. I live at 117 South Osborne. It seems I'm hearing from the board that we should all trust the U.S. government. The last people who did that were American Indians. Why don't we ask them how they feel? I mean, seriously, this is crazy. I have in front of me 2 studies by the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers that they apparently don't like us seeing. One was made in September 2013. All right? It clearly states in here that bulkheads are the best way to protect our beaches. That's true. Not sand dunes. All right? It clearly states that for anybody who wants to see it. So if you want the proof that you were just talking about, here it is. U.S. Corps of Army Engineer document. I brought several. You can look at them. All right? Let me just tell you what it says in conclusion, okay, in this document, which was 2013, okay? It says dunes will help wave attenuation, support sediment cycle, help raw material provisions, and storage and filtration of water through sand. That's what a dune does, okay? What does a bulkhead do? They came to the conclusions that it reduces flooding, reduces wave overtopping. It helps shoreline stabilization behind its structure, all right? This is their report, and I brought many copies for the board here if they want to see them. I have another report here from the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers. It's dated April 2014, okay? This is only several months ago. It shows clearly that bulkheads are the best solution for us and anyone. This gentleman over here is the engineer. He's shaking his head. He knows about these reports, obviously, okay? It shows back here all about the bulkheads, all right? Well, he has the plans. Okay? It's one study after the next showing bulkheads, 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 all right? This was made in April of 2014, and I'll tell you what their conclusions are. On page 8, it says beach restoration, dunes. Typical flood risk reduction performance of a dune is 1%. The typical flood reduction performance of a seawall or bulkhead is 1 to 10%. We have bulkheads. We have a seawall. Why are we risking this nonsense for dunes? Are we going to hire more police to patrol these dunes? How are we going to get rid of the water? The government, you say, is going to tell us they're going to pay for the water? They're going to tell us how they're going to get rid of the water. And they're going to take the cheapest way to do it. And they're going to put out pipes in. So we'll start looking like Ocean City. They're going to tell us where they're going to put the ramps. They're going to tell us. We're not going to have any input because they're paying for it. They will dictate to us what we are doing. I have copies of these reports if anybody on the board up here is interested in them.
Certainly I would, Mark. Please.
Yeah, I'd like to see.
Yeah, we don't like, you have other copies?
Thank you.
Okay.
Steve Warner, 103 North Sumner. I would like to know what this magical law firm everybody's talking about. Who is this magical law firm that's going to come in and save this, defend the city against the state and win the case? Who is this magical law firm? Does anybody have any? Who? Any answers? You have an answer, Maury? Who's the magical law firm? Huh? They say you're going to lose. Okay. Do you know anything about the law? Does anybody here know anything about the law? You do. Well, go ahead.
I just want to, my good friend, I don't know why this is even up for. I don't know why this is even up for discussion.
Shouldn't be.
You are our elected representatives. You may not agree with anything anyone says, but 65% of the people in this town said they don't want dunes. It's your obligation, whether you believe it or don't believe it, as our elected officials,
to fight the fight instead of listening to all this crap all day.
Thank you. Thank you, Herb. And yes, Herb, you are my dear friend, and we'll be after this, too. I understand that the people said they didn't want the dunes. However, did they say that they wanted to spend $500,000 to fight it? Did they say that? I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that. Okay? I didn't hear that. Well, I didn't hear it. I mean, you know, the taxpayers. So, oh, good. Oh, then fine. Then fine.
Mike, can we take a recess?
If you want to fight it with your own money, then God bless you, I'm with you. You want to take your money and fight them, do it. Please, please, I don't want the taxpayer money wasted on this, that's all.
Steve, calm down. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to adjourn this meeting and immediately, we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll immediately start the other meeting and continue. The meeting was scheduled for 5 o'clock, so please don't leave. We will continue. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the work session.
Okay. Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Torby?
Yes.
Mayor
Will we get to hear from you at the beginning of that meeting?
Pardon me?
Maybe we could hear from you, Commissioner Bubba. You're the only one that wants to talk.
Yes.